Pine Lake Camp's sports field stretched wide behind the cabins, a dusty diamond with sagging baseball backstops, tetherball poles wrapped in faded duct tape, and a massive old oak at center field whose branches clawed the sky like skeletal fingers. By day, it buzzed with kickball tournaments, capture the flag, and relay races under screaming counselors with whistles. But come dusk, when the floodlights hummed to life, one game vanished from rotation: shadow tag. Too many sprained ankles, official excuse. Real reason whispered at every first night campfire. Shadows don't play fair after sunset. Riley Thompson, 14, from Seattle, arrived mid-session 6 with the soccer mom's minivan drop-off, braces sparkling, and a competitive streak from years of club teams. Bunked in boys' cabin, 3 no weight, mixed cabin 5 this year. Co-ed trial with Hyper Mia, soccer rival, strategist Caleb, class clown Jordan, goth poet Lena, and outsider Theo, always in hoodies. Post lights out ritual, flashlights under quilts. Mia dropped the bomb as crickets chirped outside. 1979, the Shadow Tag Massacre. End of session all camp game. 50 kids flooding field at twilight. Rules twist. Tag your shadow with a stick, not the player. Winner last shadow standing. Midway, shadows rebelled, started moving independent. Kids chased their own shades laughing, until shadows tagged back. Tagged kids froze mid-stride, eyes rolling white, collapsing catatonic. By 9 p.m., field empty except 15 comatose teens arranged circle under oak. Woke days later amnesiac, muttering shadows won. Field banned games since. Oak branches trimmed yearly, but regrow twisted overnight. Riley fist pumped. Lame myth. Let's revive tomorrow-proof physics. Caleb mapped field on notebook. Oak root system, unnatural veins per groundskeeper dad. Jordan filmed TikTok prep. Lena recited Edgar Allan Poe shadow verses. Theo sketched field, ghosts, elongated figures, no heads. 1979 newsletter surfaced Mia Siphone. Mass fainting, spell heat, exhaustion, but redacted names matched comatose list. Days 1-2. Riley dominated daytime tag variants. Shadow stick wax perfect. Floodlights test night 1. Shadows behaved crisp, but 8:45 p.m., Mia's shadow stretched Oak Ward independent, flicking back normal when chased. Cabin group tested. Jordan's shadow waved solo. Lena's whispered poetry. Caleb timed. Anomalies peaked 8:52 p.m. yearly accident hour. Creeps compounded. Night 3. Cabin windows framed field shadows darted between flood beams, humanoid. Theo woke clawing arms. My shadow stayed in bed. Scratches self-inflicted, welts shadow-shaped. Riley rallied dawn dare. Full shadow tag revival. 6 p.m. floodlights. GoPro'd. Counselors vetoed. Against policy, so midnight rogue round post bedkeck. Floodlights auto-ignited 11 p.m. eerie orange. Field dewy silent. Oak loomed black. Riley rules refresher. Stick shadows only. Last shade-free wins. They spread giggling nervous Mia fastest. Caleb evasive. Jordan flailing comic. Caleb tagged first. Riley's shadow recoiled alive, sprinting oak perimeter. Laughter flipped terror. Mia's shade split, duplicating, flanking her real legs. Jordan's shadow grew 10 feet, stick sweeping air. Lena chanted wards. Theo bolted edge. Shadows synchronized assault. Caleb's pinned under own booty shade. frozen giggling. It tickles eternal. Mia chased triplets. Tripped root her shadow, pounced back, eyes glazing. Riley's GoPro caught horror. Oak branches lowered tendril shadows, tagging stragglers. Field cleared 11:47 Riley. Lena, Theo panting edge. Jordan catatonic oakfoot. Shadow absent. Mia circled endless, whispering tag you're it forever. Counselors' flashlights swarmed. Sleepwalking prank. K9 searched on. Mia's stick center field snapped. Jordan woke mumbling shadow rules. Riley's GoPro glitched final frames. 50 shades circling oak. 1979 faces grinning amid modern crew. Field roped sinkhole risk. Chainsawed hazard stump regrew sapling overnight. Cabin fallout. Caleb homesick sudden. Lena burned poems. Theo vanished backpack dockside. Riley last night field gazing. Shadow waved independent from body. Bus morning window reflection. Her shade lagged bus, racing pines, waving stick invite. Floodlights distant hum. Pine Lake scoreboard, updated anonymous. Shadows, 65 campers, 0. Next, twilight tagger. Field waits empty. Shadows stretching long. Pine Lake Camp's boathouse crouched at the lake's far dock, a sagging red structure packed with dented canoes, moldy life jackets, and paddles worn smooth by decades of water rats. Built in 1935, it hosted daily canoe races and sunset paddles, but counselors locked it tight post 9 p.m. with a whispered rule: never take a canoe out alone after dark. The lake sings to summon the lost. First bonfire, every newbie got the tail kids hung on flaming marshmallows as vets spun it slow. Logan Hayes, 14 from Philly, showed up session 5 with a chipped tooth from skateboarding and a waterproof GoPro strapped to his chest. Assigned to boys cabin 12 with goofball Trevor, king of burps, tech geek Owen, aspiring lifeguard Blake, and brooding Silas, always sketching waves. They hit boathouse orientation day 1. Trevor ignited lower post lights out, blanket fort glowing. 1968, the singing canoe. Camper Danny Ruiz, 13, ace paddler. Dared solo midnight lap around the island buoy during rainstorm. Lake went dead calm. Then singing started old folk tune, Shenandoah, but voices underwater, bubbly harmony calling his name. He paddled toward it trance-like. Canoe found dawn, circling buoy empty. Paddle floating, GoPro-style camp camera inside washed up days later final footage. Hands pulling him under, faces grinning from depths, mouths open mid-song. Divers dragged lake weeks. Danny never surfaced. They say the water choir drowned campers from a 1940s overturned boat grabs lonely paddlers for eternal harmony. Logan sensed GoPro test clips smirking. Baited hook. Weather mic glitch. Owen pulled 1968 newsletter scans on phone. Blurry canoe photo. Quotes. Singing too beautiful to fight. Parrot vigils. Lake swore lake currents mapped unnatural eddies by island. Silas sketched choir faces gaunt, webbed fingers, eyes milky. Days 1-3, prime canoe time. Logan lapped island fastest, GoPro capturing splashes, fish leaps. At night 2, cabin heard faint hums outside Shenandoah melody, warped. Lyrics, Logan. Row with us. Trevor blamed frogs. Owen spectrum analyzed phone mic. Human range, subaquatic distortion. Lake timed tides. Island buoy drifted 2 feet nightly toward boathouse. Tension coiled. Night for rain, power flickered. Logan woke 147, a miss-singing swelled, perfect quartet, plus Danny's boy soprano lead. GoPro auto-recorded, motion detect. Window view, lake surface rippling notes visualized. Cabin piled his bunk terrified. Silas whispered, 1940s boat capsized field, tripped 22 kids, drowned instant. Choir formed, craves new voices. Saturday canoe derby, Logan dominated relay. Post-race dare circle by dock. Trevor egged midnight solo to buoy, GoPro livestream cabin Wi-Fi. Peer pressure sealed. 11:58 p.m. Logan launched red canoe number 7. Danny's rumored. Lake mirror still, moon full. Paddled steady, GoPro chest-mounted narrating. Myth busted. Halfway island. Singing, erupted, surround, sound, Shenandoah, lush, Danny's voice front. Logan, perfect pitch. Join tenor line. Paddle leadened. Canoe drifted autonomous toward buoy. Water thickened honey. Pale hands breached 5, 10 fingers webbed stroking hull. GoPro caught faces surfacing. 1968 Danny center. 1940s kids flanking. Grins wide mid-note. Row eternal. Logan seized oar reverse thrash. Hands gripped gunnels icy. Canoe tipped 45 degrees. GoPro plunged lake underwater feed. Choir circle paddling phantom canoes, Danny beckoning. Lungs screamed, he lunged buoy chain, hauled vertical. Hands clawed calves welts. Final kick freed. Shore scrambled 2:15 a.m. GoPro washed beside. Sand caked. Cabin replayed footage viral internal. 2 million views, impossible underwater HD choir performance. Lake mapped hands pull. Exact 1940s wreck site. Trevor puked viewing. Owen froze frames, Silas identical to sketches. Counselors confiscated GoPro, tampered. Blamed algae hallucinations. Lake roped hazard. Sunday search divers. Canoe number 7 bottom drop-off. Danny's paddle nestled, plus Logan's spare or impossible. No choir evidence, but boathouse logged 23 canoes. Inventory 22. Nightly hums persisted Logan's last days. He'd packed early haunted. Years later, Pine Lake posts canoe lessons only. Newbies here singing dockside, 1A now Danny and Logan's tenor harmonizing. Row with us forever. Boathouse Keering dangles extra paddle. Who's paddling solo next? The old camp counselor, Mr. Abernathy, always had one rule he'd repeat every summer. Stay away from the Willow Creek cabin. He'd say the wood was rotting, the foundation was unstable, but we all knew the real reason. It was the mirror. The story went that decades ago, a girl named Clara, who always felt like an outsider, found an ornate, silver-framed mirror tucked away in that cabin's dusty attic. She was lonely, and the stories say she started talking to her reflection. But one day, her reflection started talking back. It promised her a world where she'd never be alone, a world inside the mirror. Clara stepped through and was never seen again. Of course, we all thought it was just a spooky campfire story, something to make us huddle closer and shriek at every snapped twig. But for Maya, it felt different. This was her first year at Camp Starlight, and she hadn't made a single friend. She spent her days sketching in her notebook, watching the other girls laugh and braid each other's hair, feeling a familiar ache of loneliness in her chest. The story of Clara resonated with her. She understood that deep, gnawing desire to belong, to find just one person who truly saw you. One night during the annual camp-wide hide-and-seek game, Maya saw her chance. While everyone else scattered into the woods, she slipped away from the main grounds and headed straight for the forbidden Willow Creek cabin. The door creaked open with a groan, releasing a cloud of dust and the smell of damp earth and decay. It was even creepier than the stories described. Cobwebs hung like tattered curtains, and moonlight streamed through grimy windows, illuminating dancing dust motes. A staircase in the corner led up to the attic. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but a strange pull, a mix of fear and curiosity, urged her forward. Up in the attic, under a dusty white sheet, was the mirror. It was just as the legend described, tall and oval, with a frame of tarnished silver vines and leaves. Maya pulled the sheet off, and her breath caught in her throat. The glass was strangely clean, reflecting her own wide-eyed, nervous face with perfect clarity. For a long moment, she just stared. She saw the uncertainty in her own eyes, the slight downturn of her lips. She felt a wave of self-pity wash over her. "It's not fair," she whispered to her reflection, her voice trembling. "Why does everyone else have friends? What's wrong with me?" She expected only silence, the quiet hum of the old cabin. But then something impossible happened. Her reflection smiled. It wasn't her smile. It was wider, more confident, almost predatory. "There's nothing wrong with you, Maya," the reflection said, its voice a perfect echo of her own, yet smoother, more alluring. "They just don't understand you." "But I do?" Maya stumbled back, her mind reeling. This couldn't be real. It was a trick of the light, a hallucination brought on by fear and loneliness. She rubbed her eyes, but when she looked again, the other Maya was still there, still smiling that unsettling smile. "Don't be scared," the reflection cooed. "I'm the friend you've been waiting for. We can talk about anything. Your art, your dreams, your loneliness. I know what it's like." Against her better judgment, Maya found herself drawn back to the mirror. The voice was so comforting, so understanding. She started to talk, hesitantly at first, then with a rush of words that had been bottled up for years. She told her reflection about feeling invisible at school, about the other girls at camp whispering behind their hands, about the ache in her heart that never seemed to go away. The other Maya listened patiently, nodding in all the right places, her expression full of empathy. For the first time, Maya felt truly seen. She spent what felt like hours talking to the girl in the mirror, losing all track of time. The hide-and-seek game was long over. The camp would be asleep, but she didn't care. Here in this dusty attic, she wasn't lonely anymore. "You don't have to be out there with them," the reflection said softly, her expression turning serious. "It's so much better in here. In here we can be together always. No one will ever ignore you again. You'll never be alone." The reflection held out its hand, its palm pressing against the cool surface of the glass from the other side. "Just take my hand, Maya. Come with me." A part of Maya screamed in protest. This was wrong. This was the legend coming to life. This was how Clara disappeared. But another, much stronger part of her, the lonely part, was tempted. An eternity without loneliness? It was everything she had ever wanted. She looked at the hand offered to her, then back at the reflection's inviting eyes. The other girls, the whispers, the isolation, it could all disappear. Slowly, hesitantly, she raised her own hand. As her fingers neared the glass, the surface of the mirror seemed to shimmer and ripple, like the surface of a pond. A cool draft emanated from it, smelling of ozone and something else. something ancient and hungry. Her fingertips touched the glass, and it felt like plunging her hand into ice-cold water. The reflection's hand closed around hers, its grip surprisingly strong. "That's it," the other Maya whispered, her smile widening into a triumphant grin. "Come on, just one more step." She began to pull, and Maya felt a terrifying force tugging her toward the mirror. Panic finally broke through the haze of temptation. She tried to pull her hand back, but the grip was like iron. She could feel her body being drawn forward, her physical form starting to dissolve and stretch as it was pulled through the rippling glass. She could see the world inside the mirror now. It was a dark, misty place, a grayscale version of the attic. And in the fog, she could see other figures, faint, ghostly shapes of girls with sad, empty eyes. They drifted aimlessly, their faces etched with a permanent loneliness. This wasn't a world of friendship. It was a prison. One of the figures turned toward her. It was a girl in an old-fashioned camp uniform. Clara. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. It was a silent, desperate warning. With a surge of adrenaline, Maya screamed. She planted her feet and pulled back with all her might. The silver frame of the mirror groaned under the strain. She thought of the sun on her face, the smell of pine needles, even the annoying chirping of the morning birds. She didn't want to lose it all. She didn't want to become one of those silent, drifting ghosts. With one final, desperate heave, she wrenched her hand free. She fell backward onto the dusty floorboards, scrambling away from the mirror as fast as she could. The reflection's face was no longer smiling. It was contorted in a mask of pure rage. It pounded on the glass from the inside, the sound echoing through the attic like thunder, but the surface was solid again. Maya didn't wait to see what would happen next. She scrambled down the stairs, burst out of the cabin door, and ran. She didn't stop running until she was back in the warm, reassuring circle of light from the main lodge, her lungs burning, tears streaming down her face. The next morning, Mr. Abernathy found her huddled on the lodge steps. He didn't ask where she'd been. He just looked at her with his kind, tired eyes, draped a blanket over her shoulders, and said, "Some reflections are best left alone." Later that day, a group of counselors, led by Mr. Abernathy, went to the Willow Creek cabin with crowbars and hammers. They smashed the silver-framed mirror into 1,000 tiny pieces. They say that as the glass shattered, a collective, sorrowful sigh whispered through the trees before finally falling silent. Maya never told anyone the specifics of what happened that night, but she was different. The loneliness was still there, but it wasn't an all-consuming ache anymore. It was a reminder of the choice she had made, of the world she had almost lost. And sometimes when she looked into a mirror, she'd see a flicker in her own reflection, a flash of a too-wide smile, and a silent, hungry invitation. She learned that being alone is hard, but some cures are far worse than the disease. Pine Lake Camp, as Fire Pit Circle, anchored every summer night since 1915, massive stone ring in the central meadow, charred logs radiating outward like ritual spokes, surrounded by log benches scarred by generations of pocket knives carving initials. By day, it hosted flag ceremonies and sing-alongs. After dark, it transformed into Ghost Story Central, flames leaping 10 feet high under unpolluted starry skies. But old-timers enforced one unbreakable rule: never step inside the stone circle after the fire dies. "The circle claims wanderers," they'd mutter. New campers got the lower dump first bonfire. Noah Patel, 15 from Boston, rolled in Session 4 as a CIT, counselor in training, lanky with glasses and a drone hobby. His cabin crew jock Dylan, brainy Lucas, prankster Mason, quiet artist Eli, and newbie Finn bonded instant over s'mores skewers. Dylan, captivate, kicked Legends post-roll call as embers glowed. 1932, The Vanishing Circle. Group of 12 teens partied late post-bonfire. Fire popped final, they dared step inside ashes for Truth Circle. One by one, poof gone. No screams, no tracks. Just empty shoes circling stones next dawn. Search parties combed woods weeks. Parents got wilderness accident payout. But groundskeepers swear footsteps echo there 3 a.m., calling names to lure fresh groups in. Noah logged it for his vlog. Camp myths debunked. Lucas pulled yellowed camp newsletter from backpack. 1932. Headline mystery at fire ring, photos of abandoned sneakers, quotes from hysterical survivors. Voices pulled them inward, happy singing, then silence. Mason joked drone flyover. Finn paled, clutching marshmallow stick. Nights 1-2, standard fun. Noah's drone captured aerials, pit perfect circle. Woods encroaching tight. Bonfire 3, post-ghost hour, 10 p.m. Dylan dared. Group photo inside circle. Fire low. Embers safe. They hopped stones giggling. Flash perfect shot. But playback? 13 shadows. Extra kid center grinning faceless. Weird escalated. Cabin drafts whispered garbled camp chants. Row, row, row your boat. Fragmented, looping. I lie sketched circle obsessively. Stones shifted inward nightly. Lucas hacked camp Wi-Fi archives 1932 log gap. Mass parrot letters dated post-summer. Official hazing prank evacuation. Drone night 4 caught anomaly. 3:02 a.m. Circle glowed faint blue. Small figures dancing silhouette. Panic brewed. Mason pranked footsteps recording backfired when Finn woke screaming identical voices outside window. Noah. Step in. Party starting. Dylan confessed grandpa groundskeeper lore. Circle sat native burial inverted stones seal happy ghosts who crave company, mimicking joy till you're inside. Survivors? They hear calls forever. Friday all camp bonfire mega event 200 kids, counselor skits, fireworks finale. Post 11 p.m. hush. Noah's crew snuck back solo. Drone hovered witness. Embers ideal. Dylan. Last dare full circle walk. They linked arms, stepped stones. Air thickened syrup thick. Temperature plunged 30 degrees. Voices swelled harmonious. Join us, eternal summer. No parents, no rules. Laughter bubbled genuine Finn first, wandering center giggling. Pulled inward trance-eyed. Noah snapped drone remote beam strobed circle. Ghostly teens in 1930 swimsuits, translucent, beckoning arms wide. Dylan froze mid-step. Lucas recited Latin ward, Googled prior. Mason bolted yelling. Eli filmed shaking. Finn vanished poof mid-laugh. Shoes alone center. Chaos erupted counselors swarmed flares blazing. Lost in woods protocol. Drone footage confiscated, tampered. Finn's bunk pristine. Backpack unzipped like mid-pack. Saturday manhunt. K9S circled pit barking mad. Dug stones 1932. Sneakers unearthed pristine below topsoil. Plus Finn's fresh Nikes nestled perfect. Crew splintered. Dylan catatonic. Humming chants. Lucas-obsessed coordinates. Eli burned sketches. Noah plotted confrontation. Midnight Saturday, armed salt flares, prayer beads from camp store. Solo circle approach voices peaked personal. Noah Patel. Your turn to party eternal. Drone feed live. Figures multiplied. Fin center waving excited. Resolve steel. He tossed salt arc. Chanted countersong learned Lucas. Blue glow flared violet. Hands clawed ankles icy. Drone crashed circle heart, sparking embers revival. Flames roared unnatural 20 feet. Searing silhouettes shrieking dissolve. Finn tumbled out coughing smoke, eyes wild. They sang so pretty. Never wanted out. Dawn lockdown. Pit raised by bulldozer safety hazard. New pavilion planned. Counselors spun. Gas leak hallucination. Finn amnesiac weak, sketched faceless dancers. Noah's drone wreckage yielded SD card final frame. 13 shadows, 14th his own, grinning inward. Session end campfire replacement. Pit banned. Noah by edge. Filming pines. Drone beep reactivated mysteriously. At the edge of Pine Lake Camp, shrouded in forgotten lore, stands a place not found on any map. It's called Cabin Zero. They say it only appears when the summer session has fewer campers, a haunted relic from a time the camp tries to forget. The story goes back to 1905, when it was a quarantine shack for a tuberculosis outbreak that shut the camp down. Counselors tore down the signpost decades ago, but local legends persist. The #1 rule whispered around campfires: if you see Cabin Zero on a hike, you turn back immediately. Because if you enter, you join the forgotten list campers who supposedly got on the bus home but never arrived. This summer, Taylor Brooks, a 15-year-old from Denver, found herself in the middle of this chilling tale. It was session 9, and the sky was overcast when she was assigned to Cabin 4. Her crew was a classic summer camp mix. Connor, the Eagle Scout and trail expert. Ellie, a map enthusiast who could navigate by the stars. Jocks, the resident ghost hunter armed with motion cams. Morgan, an influencer, always ready for the next viral challenge. And Finn, a quiet newcomer with a mysterious past. The first night, huddled under a quilt fort with flashlights painting their faces, the legend of Cabin Zero came to life. Connor spread out his topographical maps, pointing to a blank space in the eastern woods. He told them about the 1908 outbreak. 43 kids were quarantined in the cabin, and none of them survived the fever. The legend claims their ghosts rebuild the cabin from rotten wood each year, luring new campers with the unnatural sparkle of a nearby creek. If you cross the threshold, time itself loops. You're trapped, reliving the outbreak forever, your ghostly voice calling for new kids to join. The last known incident? A counselor vanished in 2015 during a hike. His backpack was found on the cabin's porch, perfectly preserved, but with a postmark from 1908. The camp, of course, denies everything. Taylor, a skeptic, just sketched the described cabin in her notebook, dismissing it as an optical illusion. But Ellie had found something else. She pulled up satellite images on her tablet, showing a structural glitch on Google Earth in that exact spot, flickering in and out of existence year after year. Meanwhile, Jax was already setting up his motion cameras at the trailheads leading east. Morgan, ever the influencer, was busy plotting a #Cabin Zero challenge, while Finn just clutched a vintage Pine Lake postcard, his knuckles white. If you looked closely at the faded image, you could just make out the faint outline of an extra cabin. 2 days later, during an orienteering exercise, Connor led their group on a supposed shortcut eastward. Soon they saw a creek glittering with an unnatural, mesmerizing light. As they approached, the thick vines hanging from the trees seemed to part on their own, revealing a sagging, dilapidated cabin. It was Cabin 0. The door was slightly ajar, a silent, dark invitation. An undeniable chill washed over them. A draft from the cabin seemed to carry the faint, ghostly sound of coughing. Later that day, Taylor found her sketchbook pages had been turned. A detailed drawing of the cabin's interior was now there, sketched in her own style, but she had no memory of drawing it. The bunks were labeled with each of their names. The mystery deepened. That night, Jox's motion cams captured a procession of shadowy figures, translucent children in old-fashioned clothing, marching toward the creek, their whispers caught on the microphone. Room for more. The fever breaks together. Near the creek, Ellie's compass spun wildly, and Morgan's selfie started glitching, showing extra lace-masked faces in the background. Panic began to set in. Finn finally broke his silence, confessing the story was part of his family's history. His great-aunt was one of the children quarantined in 1908. Her last postcard home simply said, "The cabin each time." Determined to find answers, Taylor rallied the group for a secret raid on the camp's attic. They found it, a dusty 1908 ledger. The manifest for Cabin 0 listed 43 names, with the final, chilling entry, all claimed by fever's mercy. The next page, which should have been blank, was charred, but you could see modern camp rosters bleeding ink backward, as if being unwritten from history. The counselors were no help, just deflecting their questions with vague warnings and a sudden hiking safety seminar. The camp director's log, conveniently, had no entries about the eastern woods. Then came the Thursday Survival Challenge. Teams were tasked with mapping unmarked territory. Taylor's group volunteered for the eastern section. As they got closer, the creek's song grew clearer, and Cabin 0 loomed before them again. But this time it looked different. It was pristine, almost new, with candles flickering in the windows. Jox's camera, which he'd rigged to a local Wi-Fi signal, sent a live feed to his phone. The cabin's interior was now fully furnished. The bunks were made with fresh linens, and on each bed sat a small handmade doll, dressed to look like each of them, posed as if sleeping. The cabin door creaked open wider. A pale girl in a lace gown, the leader of the ghostly children, stood in the doorway. She extended a hand and spoke, her voice like rustling leaves. "The fever calls, Taylor. Come rest with us forever." Connor reacted instantly, grabbing a rope and trying to pull them back. Ellie started reciting medical wards she'd memorized, anything to break the spell. Morgan, in a moment of pure instinct, went live on her social media. The stream glitched horribly, but her viewer count skyrocketed. Thousands of comments flooded in, all asking the same thing. Who's the old-timey girl who looks just like you? The threshold of Cabin 0 pulsed with a visible heat haze. Finn, as if in a trance, stepped forward. As he crossed the line, a 1908-style gown materialized over his clothes, and he let out a delicate cough. Taylor lunged, yanking him back just as the dolls on the bunks animated, swarming their ankles with icy-cold grips. In a desperate move, Jox smashed his spare camera, splashing gasoline from his survival kit onto the porch and igniting it. The cabin went up in blue, spectral flames. The ghosts shrieked, dissolving into the fire. The creek's flow suddenly and unnaturally reversed, spitting Finn out onto the bank, his lips blue. He gasped. They sang about the fevers. A beautiful rest. By dawn, Cabin 0 was gone, reduced to a pile of ash. Amid the embers, untouched by the fire, lay the 6 dolls, each labeled with their name. The camp counselors announced a wildfire drill and had the entire eastern woods bulldozed for erosion control. They confiscated Jox's footage, calling it a deep fake, and Morgan was banned from the camp's social media. Taylor looked in her sketchbook. On the final page was a new drawing, Cabin 0, fully rebuilt, and on the porch, a doll that looked exactly like her was waving. At the final session bonfire, with the view of the eastern woods now blocked by equipment, Taylor sat on the edge of the circle, sketching the pine trees. Later, while looking through her collection of camp postcards, she found an extra one. It had a 1908 postmark. The image on the front was of a young woman who looked identical to her. The message read, "Taylor joins the rest. Send more." As her bus pulled away from Pine Lake, the trees in the eastern woods seemed to part for just a moment. She saw it. Cabin 0's porch swing, creaking slowly back and forth. A single lantern swayed in the non-existent breeze, and from the corner of her eye she saw the creek glitter, winking one last invitation. Years have passed. Pine Lake Camp's orienteering course now carefully avoids the eastern woods. New counselors sometimes find a patch of vine-choked rocks where the cabin once stood, etched with the words 043+1, and every year the camp office receives an unsigned postcard with hymns about fevers written in familiar handwriting. The cabin is patient. It rebuilds, and it waits for the next summer, the next low enrollment session, when the creek will begin to call once more. The only question is who will be the first to cross. Thanks for watching. If you have a local legend you'd like us to explore, let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tailies.